a major diplomatic development, US President Donald Trump has announced that American representatives will be traveling to Islamabad for renewed talks with Iran, even as he issued a sharp warning that United States could target Iran's power plants if a deal is not reached. In a post on Truth Social, Trump said the delegation would arrive in Islamabad by Monday evening, signaling a renewed diplomatic push amid rising tensions in the Strait of Hormuz. Alongside the outreach, he cautioned that Washington could knock out every single power plant and every single bridge in Iran if it refuses what he described as a very fair and reasonable deal, adding, "No more Mr. Nice Guy." Now, the development follows an earlier round of talks in Islamabad between the two sides that failed to yield any breakthrough despite extended discussions. On the other hand, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian has sharply questioned United States authority to restrict Iran's nuclear program. He said the US has no legal basis to deny Iran access to nuclear technology or its nuclear rights, adding that such demands lack justification under international norms. Pezeshkian also directly criticized US President Donald Trump, asking, and I quote, "Who is he to deprive a nation of its rights?" Reiterating Iran's position, he stressed that Tehran is not seeking to widen the conflict and that it has not initiated any wars and does not intend to attack any country, adding that it is exercising its legitimate right to self-defense. Now, the remarks come as both sides remain divided on key issues, with a temporary ceasefire set to expire on Wednesday, adding further uncertainty to the already tense situation. So this is the situation as of now on ground. Times Now has also received details of the list of delegates who will be part of the peace talks in Islamabad. As far as the US delegation is concerned, J.D. Vance, US Vice President, along with Steve Witkoff, US Special Envoy to the Middle East, Jared Kushner, US Special Envoy for Peace Missions, are going to be part of the American delegation. On the other hand, as far as the Iranian delegation is concerned, Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf, Speaker of Iran's Parliament, Abbas Araghchi, Iran's Foreign Minister, and Ali Bagheri Kani, Iran's former acting foreign minister, are part of the Iranian delegation. Will there be a breakthrough? That's the big question. Let's open this up and let's go across to our guests. We are joined by Dr. Brahma Chilani, strategic affairs expert. We also have Milad Rabbani, former Iranian diplomat, and Sierra Claire, foreign policy analyst. Thank you very much for joining us. I want to first come to you, Sierra Claire. On one hand, round two of negotiations, so talks, but on the other hand, threats as well. How can threats and talks go together?
Well, with the Iranians, unfortunately, they have to. That's the only thing they respond to. But I think, what President Trump is communicating is that the ceasefire, there's going to be no extension of the ceasefire, which is the Iranians, have been pushing for that because they want to delay things further. And so this is their last chance to make a deal. As you talked about, he said in his post, the deal that's on the table that the U.S. believes is very fair. So, there's really no more time left to kind of go back and forth about various points. The delegation is heading to Islamabad, so there may be some brief back and forth, but it's really basically what's offered is what's available.
But Sierra, how can Iranians trust you if just ahead of the talks you continue to threat them and say that you're going to knock down every single power plant and every single bridge in Iran if the deal does not happen your way?
Well, the Iranians already went back on their part of the agreement, which is that they were going to open the strait, and then they didn't. And they've been doing this for pretty much 47 years. And so President Trump is trying to communicate that there are real consequences for them going back on their deal. And some people may feel that there should be consequences now for the fact that they fired on ships after they said they wouldn't. But of course, President Trump wants these negotiations to work. He wants the peace to go through. So that's why he's sending the delegation back. But at the same time, he is saying the bridges and power grid day is something that's still on the table.
Okay, let me go across to Milad Rabbani. Milad Rabbani, Iran says till the naval blockade continues, we won't open the Strait of Hormuz. Now, there's a new development every single day. I do understand Iran has also made statements like they don't want to expand the conflict and they were not the ones who initiated this war. But what is expected of round two of negotiations if both sides have hardened their stand?
It's a very good question. What I see inside the Iran, we should have a deep look inside the Iran. Now there is conflict of interest in Iran, and Iran is not a united government. There is huge conflicts, and we can observe it inside the Iran. There is a contradiction, stances, and position between Iranian officials, and I believe it's the best time for regime change, real regime change, not what ridiculous comments Trump made about regime change by killing. It was not a regime change. It was a killing, assassination of leader. It was a leader change. But what we can see is about the contradiction of the stances. The officials, government officials, I mean the Pezeshkian and its team, they announced the Hormuz Strait is open, but at the same time we see the military officials, they closed it, they put a blockage, and they said no, they are all gibberish, and what we want to do is what to do. There is a huge conflict, but I don't know why Trump targeted and threatened the bridges, because again, the bridges are...
Yes.
Yes.
Now you spoke about regime change. You know, Donald Trump also spoke about that, and he said he would like to take part in choosing the new supreme leader. All said and done, nothing has changed. Just one leader replaced another. How do you think this conflict or this escalation is going to lead to that regime change?
If it is about to lead to that, because now I'm not very optimistic about regime change. I see chaos and how should I say, the experience of Syria or other Middle Eastern countries, Iraq, for example. I see the destruction, not any construction. I believe if Trump make a bad mistake by attack, for example, let's say, if he do something that the result will be the Iranian people to be united, because the Iranian regime knows how to play with that, and they want this exactly. If I want to give you an example, the U.S. targeted a school. They killed 170 children and teachers. You know, the Iranian regime was happy for that. You know why? Because now they have something to use as a propaganda to provoke people against the United States. So the next movement of Trump is important, and I believe the escalation of the war and conflict between
you're saying then the common enemy becomes then the common enemy becomes America, and that really suppresses all the voices in favor of protest and regime change. I want to quickly go across to our strategic affairs expert, Dr. Chelani. Dr. Chelani, now we've heard both sides, and we've heard the kind of statements that are coming in of threats. Earlier, we heard the new supreme leader, a statement rather from the new supreme leader as per Iran, in which he spoke about bitter defeat for US and Israel. Now, can one expect breakthrough? Yes, the world is hoping for peace. The world, especially countries that depend heavily on the Strait of Hormuz, want a breakthrough.
Swati, the very fact that the US and Iran have decided to talk again suggests that neither side wants to return to the battlefield. So that is good news. And for Trump especially, having failed to achieve on the battlefield what he sought to achieve, including regime change, including bombing Iran into submission, the Iran war did not go as, according to his expectations. He was emboldened by the success of his military operation in Venezuela. So he thought that the Iran war would also be a cakewalk for him. But the Iran war has turned into a debacle for Trump. And now he's trying to undo the damage through diplomacy, as if the damage can be undone. Iran is not a defeated foe. Iran sees itself as the victor, as you rightly pointed out, the statement of the new supreme leader. Now, whether that is true or not is not the point. The point is that Trump failed to bomb Iran into submission. Now he's making these maximalist demands. He will have to climb down from his maximalist demands if he wants a deal with Iran, because Iran is not going to accept the things that he's demanding. So a deal can emerge if Trump abandons both his maximalist demands and his constant threats to bomb Iran again. As you rightly pointed out, Swati, that you can't have talks with threats to bomb Iran again. The two cannot go together, because Iran will then not have space to agree to a deal. To let the Iranian side accept a deal, Trump will have to dial back his rhetoric, because you can only negotiate and reach a deal in an atmosphere where you try to build trust, you try to win confidence of the other side. You cannot reach a deal when you are threatening to bomb the other country in ways that would constitute war crime. Bombing every single power plant would constitute a war crime under the Geneva Conventions.
Yes.
The other thing, which is the more worrying thing, is that to negotiate with Iran, Trump is using Pakistan, the only country in the world that has both nuclear weapons and state-nurtured terrorists.
Absolutely.
This is the country that coined the idea of the Islamic bomb in the 1970s. This is the country that advanced its covert nuclear weapons program with financial backing from oil-rich Arab states like Saudi Arabia and Libya. This is the country whose A.Q. Khan-led international nuclear smuggling network heightened Western fears. That very country has become Trump's back channel as well as host of talks with Iran. Trump is trying to normalize a country that has been in the doghouse all these years.
Okay.
And I think that is not good news for regional security.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One has to also keep in mind regional security. The same country, Dr. Shadani, that gave shelter to Osama bin Laden, and it was America that carried out an operation without informing Pakistan on its soil and eliminated bin Laden. Before I wrap up, I quickly want to go across to Sierra Claire. Truce talks or not, double talks, double speak definitely happening on part of Donald Trump.
Well, I mean, that's part of dealing with the Iranians, unfortunately. On the Pakistan thing, I would say it's actually a positive sign that we're seeing Pakistan, step into however limited a role, a mediator role, rather than going straight to being an ally with Iran, which in the past they may have done. And so that's actually, showing that President Trump's actions to deter state-sponsored terrorism by what he's doing in Iran and showing the world that, this is unacceptable, is actually working to deter other would-be state sponsors of terror.
Pakistan already chose a side when Pakistan, without naming United States of America, criticized only Israel. Did it not choose a side?
Well, Pakistan doesn't have positive relations with Israel, and, that's something that needs to be worked on. But, it's one issue at a time, especially when we're dealing with nuclear enriched uranium in Iran. That's the top priority.
Okay, all right. Whether there's a breakthrough or not, I think we'll have to wait. We'll have to monitor in which direction these negotiations go. But of course, the entire world is hoping that there is peace, that there is some sort of a breakthrough so that all the traffic in the Strait of Hormuz can clear. The countries that heavily depend on that are hoping for peace and hoping for a breakthrough. Thank you very much, gentlemen, and Sierra Claire, for joining us on the broadcast. Thank you for your time.